Hey folks, today's video is going to be completely centered around calibrating a new Sigma lens. So I'm going to start here by showing you what you need to even get started. Let's start first off by obviously the lens. I'm going to use the 18 to 35 millimeter f1.8, and this one is probably the most difficult to calibrate. I'm not going to go through every calibration, but I'm going to show you how to do it so you can do it yourself, or you can use my settings and try it, see if it works. So Sigma 18 to 35 f1.8, you need that. You need the Sigma dock. This is all stuff that you absolutely need in order to do this at all. So you need the Sigma dock. I am going to be using this on the T7i, which is Canon obviously, so I got the Canon. It says for Canon on here. Now it's important to get the dock that is specifically for your system, because the connection here is going to be exactly the same connection that your camera would use. So Nikon lens is not going to fit on an EF mount or an EFS mount. So it's very important that you get the proper dock. Okay, so this is the Canon dock. Next you need a computer. You need either a PC, Mac, doesn't matter. And you're going to need to hook this up, and before you get started you have to go to Sigma.com or Sigma dock software, type that in and it'll pull up the dock software, so you can download that for whatever device it is that you need it for. Okay, so once you have that, you still need a guide, which is, I'll link this in the description below. This is something that I ordered off Amazon. You don't necessarily need this, you could use a ruler or whatever, but this is already set up. You order it, it's like a page, you fold it up, and it's got numbers and stuff on there, which allows you to fine-tune exactly what you're trying to focus on, because it's going to be a lot of precision here, and you need a lot of different indicators. This has a lot of lines, checkers, different focal points and stuff that makes it a lot easier to do this process. And what I do with this is I actually tape it to a little tripod quick release mount. So I'll put this on a tripod and have two tripods, which I'll show you in a second, to keep it online. There's a lot of ways you can do it. You can do it on a long dining room table. I've done it that way as well. But either way, you probably need at least one tripod. Two would be best. And this just seems to be a really easy way to do it. Just tape it on there. When you're done, pull the tape off and throw this in the closet, because you probably need it again if you're going to buy more lenses. But so you need this, obviously the lens, the computer, the dock. So before we go any further here, we need to check the firmware of the lens to make sure that's up to date. So the way you're going to do that is connect it just like you would to your camera till you hear the click, meaning it's locked on. Make sure it's plugged up right, and you just set it down and you're done with this. Just leave it sitting there. It's called Sigma Optimization Pro, and it's automatically checking the latest firmware once you open the program with the dock on and the lens on. It automatically checks. It's reading the current settings, and it'll pull up and show an exact version of your lens with a picture on the screen, so there's no guesswork. This current firmware of the lens is the latest version 2.02, which is the latest version on this guy. Okay, so you're gonna hit close. Let me close that. Okay, now when you come down to customization, that's where you go up here to focus settings. Once you're in focus settings, it'll show you the exact distances and the focal lengths that you need to be at. So on the far left, you'll see the millimeters, 18, 24, 28, 35. That's the settings of the focal length that you want to have on your lens. So obviously it's pretty simple. That's pretty self-explanatory. Go to 18. Now the next one here, you'll see 0.28, and what that is in your window of your glass here, you will actually see the numbers on here, and that you will adjust with the focus ring. So here 0.28 is the very first spot you'll see on here. And then you'll slide it over and you'll see the 0.35 and so on. And I'll show you how all that works in a second, but that's where we're going to start. So once we're at this point here, you can now detach this. I'm going to leave that right there. Just cover that because I'm outdoors. I don't want anything getting in there. And now I'm going to hook it up to the camera and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so now what I want to do is set up the tripods so that way they're fairly level with each other, because I want a straight line from the camera to the 0 on here. So I'm just going to use, like I said, the quick mount. Put this guy on there. And I'm going to set it up. And again, this does not have to be totally exact. I mean, you want it to be close. I mean, if you really wanted to pull out all of the measuring equipment and all that, that's up to you. But I like to just get it close enough. The way I'm going to shoot, the settings I'm going to use on here are going to be AV mode. I want to have it shooting at f1.8. And again, I'm using that center dot in the... So I want that to be right on the 0, which it is. And then up here, as you can see, I want to be at 18, and I want this at the 28. Okay, so, and the way that I'm going to get that at the 28 is moving this, the distance here, moving it back and forth until that is at 28 when I focus. So right now when I focus, it is at the 28 right there. And that's what I needed it at, right there. And this is going to be the same with every camera. I'm using the T7i, but if you want to calibrate this and you have the 90D or any camera you use, you're going to want to be shooting at f1.8, and you want that depth of field to be right on the 0 here. So the 0 will be all the way across. So in case you miss it here and you can't quite differentiate it, see if that's right, you can come over on the other side of these guys. These things are really good for this. I mean, they really are beneficial to get one of these. And if you got to wait a couple days to get it, it's worth it because it really helps you fine tune this. Okay, so I've taken a few shots here, and this is the distance it is at actually 18 at the 0.28. That's going to be the first adjustment on the computer. So now that I've taken that set of 3 photos, I'm going to take this over and I'm going to see what's off on it and then make the adjustments accordingly, whether the focal point is too high or too low, which is why it's important to have this and have it graded on a slope so you can hit that angle precisely. And it's also why it's important to be shooting at f1.8 so you can really pinpoint that depth of field, because that's going to be the difference on getting somebody's eye in focus or missing completely in getting their hairline or their jaw in focus, is right here at f1.8. So let's take it over and test it on the computer and see where it's at right now, see what adjustments we have to make, and try it again. And this is where we just keep going back and forth, making these adjustments until it's perfect. Let's check out what these adjustments look like on here. And again, this is at 18 in the 0.28 or whatever that is, the first setting. First picture looks pretty good. The 0 looks actually almost perfect. So let's try the next one. Looks back focused a hair, as you can see right in there. Okay. And the last one, yeah, back focused a hair. Could probably use a tiny bit of adjustment, but not much. So I'm going to go ahead and make the adjustments on here. We'll try it again and see how it looks in a second. Okay, so I've got the lens hooked up now, and this is the screen I'm at here. So I'm going to go into customization, focus setting, and this is where we just were, right here on this one. The 18, the 0.28. So I'm going to make an adjustment here. As you see, I've got it all the way up to 10, and it was back focusing a hair. So let's move this up to 12. So I'm going to take that up to 12, and now you got to hit rewriting and agree. Okay, now it's writing that change into the lens. Now it's done. Now I can disconnect the lens and retry it to see if it's been fixed. But you have to wait till that rewriting is done. You have to hit that. Okay, so let's go over here and try this now and see if that corrected it or if it moved it to where I want it. So calibrations. So I've made some calibrations. Now let's see what happened. And that looks dead on right there, maybe even a little high. That's the first photo. Second photo, and I'm looking over here too because this might be a little easier, but it looks pretty dead center there. That looks pretty good. Okay, now let's go to the next photo. This is number 3. And I like to do groups of 3. I always take 3 because sometimes the first one will be in perfect, and then by the third one, it seems to have moved for some reason. That might be human error. It might be slight movement in the the tripod head. But typically, if that happens, then I'm going to go do it again. But right now, those 3, from looking at it, look really spot on. And that is how you do it. Now we're going to go through and repeat the process. I'm going to do one more and move the camera back and move it back and do a totally different setting to show you kind of how to make that adjustment, because it's a little bit tricky. But after this next one, I'm going to, you're going to be on your own. I'm not going to sit here and do all 16, but this is basically how you do it, step by step, methodically, and just take your time and get it right the first time the best you can, and it'll be set for, majority of the cameras you put it on. At least that's how it's been for me. Now that doesn't mean that a new firmware update won't come along and it might change your settings a little bit, or hopefully at some point wipe it out to where you don't have to do this at all. But in the meantime, take your time, do it, be very thorough with this, and hopefully you'll get extremely accurate and tack sharp photos. So I'm going to show you one more. Change the setting here. We're going to go to a completely different setting, and we're going to go to we'll take it down to the 35 and somewhere farther along here. Let me see. So now I'm going to change it up. We're going to go 35 millimeters at the 0.35 focal length. So I've got to get this set up just right for this and get that at 0. Nope, that's at 0.7. So let's see. And again, I'm just pulling this guy back almost. Man, that's pretty close again. Okay, there we go. So this is the 35. I jumped from the 18 all the way up to the 35, and that's at the 3.5. And let's check this out. And I want to have this directly on that 0, so it's a little high. I'm going to raise that a hair. I'm going to lower it a hair, and I want to make sure it's squared up. There we go. So again, I got to get this right at that 0, and there it is. It is perfectly on 0. 1, 2. Okay, there's 3 shots. Now let's start the process all over again. So I'm back over here, and I've got the lens back up, and this is the 3.5 at 3.5 here. So the first thing I'm going to do here is pull up the files and see how far off from 0 I am. Again, this is the 3.5 at the 3.5. And if you're ever curious, on Windows, you just hit File Info, and it'll show you over here. Okay, I was pretty close. I was off a hair. I'm at 32 millimeters. But anyways, but let's see. Wow, that looks good. That's almost dead on. Let's try here. Again, that's pretty much perfect. So I'm not even gonna mess with that. And the last one, nope. So that setting is pretty perfect. I'm not even gonna change it. Now, as you saw there, what I've gathered, if the focal point was, say, down here, then I'm gonna subtract. I'm gonna go minus, you know, whatever I was at. Let's say I was at 3 there. I'm gonna go minus maybe 5 if it's down here. If it's down quite a bit. If it's way down here, I'm going 10. If it's down just a hair, you get the idea. You're going minus 3. If it's up here, you probably, if you're, I'm sorry, completely backwards there. If it's down here, you're going to add 3. So if it's 10 and the focus is down here, you're going to bump it to 12 and it'll take it up here like I did on the other one. If it's at, let's say, if the focus is up here, you're going to subtract a few. So if you're at 5 here and it's right here, you're probably going to want to take it to -5 to bring it back down. And it's just trial and error. That's basically all you're going to do through this whole process. It's a lot of work, folks. But if you do it right the first time, you don't have to keep doing it over and over, and you'll have a lens that is extremely sharp, razor sharp, super fun to use. So again, folks, this is just part of the process. Sometimes it'll hit perfect like here and you don't have to touch a thing. Other times you have to make some major adjustments. So this is how you do it. If you guys want to use my settings, feel free. Okay, I'm going to post them here and you can add these in and tweak them. It might make this whole process a lot easier for you. Depending on what camera you have, you might have to tweak it a lot more or a lot less, or it might be perfect. You may try these settings and throw it on there, it'll be fine. But this is the process that it takes here to do it. So I wanted to show the best I could of how to do it, and you know, it's a fairly intimidating task because there's so much involved. But if you take your time, step by step, methodically do it, I'm telling you, you can get the settings right. And let's say, for example, the 35mm. It's way easier on the 35mm because instead of having 4 different focal lengths to worry about, you only have that one, 35mm. So you only have 4 settings to adjust this way on the 35mm. Then luckily, say on the Sigma 14 to 24mm, I didn't have to make any adjustments. The newer Sigma lenses seem to be coming much more calibrated to the equipment, pre-calibrated I should say. So that's a good sign. But that's it, folks. This is how you make the adjustments, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to help you out here. But I wanted to make this and get it out there because I know a lot of people are looking to buy some of these Sigma lenses, and you know, this process can be intimidating, but hopefully this will make it a little easier, a little less painful for you. All right, well, thank you for watching and have a great day.